Number 2, The Wolverine. Saw it on Sunday. Before I get into the review of The Wolverine, I guess I should talk about the X-Men films a little bit and my thoughts. The first X-Men movie back in 2000, I thought it was a nice start to the modern era of superhero movies. You know, when I think back to where this whole superhero movie craze started, you know, obviously you have the older Superman films that predate a lot of this, but when you're talking about the modern fascination with the genre, I think it starts with X-Men. I remember when that movie first came out, it was a big deal. It was, you know, finally computer graphics were advanced to the point where they could make a movie like that. And the first X-Men I thought was a decent enough try. I mean, at the time, of course, it seems awesome because there's nothing else out there like it. But I thought they did an adequate job, you know, good movie that over time has lost some of its allure just because the effects don't look nearly as good, and we've seen what the genre is really capable of, but it's a nice enough movie. X-Men 2 was solid, definitely an improvement. We definitely see some care and effort put into the creation of the movie. It's very respectable. I enjoyed it a lot. I really liked what Brian Cox brought to that film. Number 3, X-Men 3, The Last Stand, just kind of a mess. They changed directors, it shows. A lot of the movie just feels disloyal to the X-Men franchise. A lot of problems, just not a very good movie. And then you have X-Men Origins Wolverine, which of course is going to be compared to this Wolverine movie because, of course, they both deal specifically with the Wolverine, although some argue that all the X-Men movies do that, and basically the X-Men movies are just the Wolverine featuring a couple other mutants that we don't really care about as much, but I'm not here to talk about that. That's the point of much debate. Anyway, X-Men Origins Wolverine was terrible. Just a complete mess all the way around, a real disappointment for me back in the summer of, I think it was 2009. And then we had First Class, which I thought was, in some places, a little bit, it felt a little cheap. It felt a little corny, like, you know, just as an example, the Beast, that character design looks like dog shit, but a lot of good intentions in that film, a really good effort, and I actually did enjoy it a lot. I thought the performances were fantastic. I thought the narrative behind the movie was strong. I thought the characters were strong, and I think it all came together into a very fun summer movie. So now we're here. X-Men, The Wolverine. Well, this isn't an X-Men movie even, so arguably these last 3 minutes have been me just talking about movies that aren't really related to this, but rather than an X-Men movie, this is specifically a Wolverine movie. It's called The Wolverine, and my thoughts on this one is they've learned from their mistakes from X-Men Origins Wolverine and created a respectable film. Now, as far as superhero movies go, I get the sense that a lot of people, although clearly not everyone because these movies make plenty of money, are getting a little sick of the whole superhero thing. We've seen it done 30, 40 times over the past decade. We're ready to either move on or have the genre do something brand new. So you can't just get by on making some cool action scenes and giving some nods to the original continuity. You have to actually create a quality product, as I think we learned with X-Men Origins, because that movie did not perform all that well. I think they just tried to get by on the fact that it has cool superheroes. This movie takes its time. It tells a story. It tells a somewhat accurate piece of the Wolverine backstory. And it does a pretty good job of all of that. In some parts, this movie is slow. In fact, during some parts, the movie gets a little boring for what you would expect in a comic book movie. But I think that was all to a purpose, to tell a meaningful character-driven story, to give a meaningful reason behind the movie. And I think it comes together in the end to something that works quite well. We kind of see the Wolverine character grow from somebody who really just doesn't care about much of anything and is kind of just looking for a way to die, to somebody who accepts his role in life and decides he's going to make the best take his abilities and use them to the best he can. We see why he changes his mind on these issues. We see the series of events that leads to him having a newfound respect for life and his abilities in life. And on the whole, I think this movie did its job quite well, and it was enjoyable. Now, this is at its heart a superhero comic book movie, so I don't think it's unfair to point out that, yeah, this movie was a little slow. It felt a little dry and drab and sleepy at times. Obviously, they're trying to give the Wolverine the character development they need to get him from the start of the movie to the end of the movie, but if they had amped that factor up by just like 4 or 5%, maybe I'd come out with a much more positive opinion. But as it stands, I feel like this Wolverine movie is in a lot of ways what a Wolverine movie should always have been. Not that I'm saying the origins of the Wolverine character are, bad or we shouldn't see them or anything like that, but I think with a character like the Wolverine, you want to see that whole Yojimbo style of things. In fact, I think in a perfect world, this movie would have been rated NC-17, but that's not happening. We want to see him go to Japan. We want to see him fight people with swords and katanas, and basically what he does in this movie. Although there wasn't as much of that as I maybe would have liked, I think that theme of him going to Japan and fighting samurais and learning about honor of a warrior and learning about all those things and fighting in the context of those Eastern practices and Eastern dogma, I think that all meshes together in something that the Wolverine character is all about. And I think that's a good way to approach telling his story. And I think it's a good way to approach making this movie, and the end product shows, in my opinion, entertaining quality film. So I congratulate the people behind this film. I think they have the franchise well back on track now. I'm excited for Days of Future Past. I don't know too much about what that movie's going to consist of yet, but I think now that they have all the people that they wanted in terms of the director, Bryan Singer, back, I think they'll do a good job with it. And yeah, so this was an entertaining movie. It's got not as many action sequences as you might expect, but they're the kind of action sequences that I want to see in a Wolverine movie, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, if I was to rate it on a scale of 1 to 100, I'd give it like a 76. Again, I think it has to be said, it's a little slow, but it's all for a good purpose, and I would recommend this to Wolverine fans, comic book movie fans. I think that it's not as original or giving you something as fresh as like Batman Begins when it came out, or the first Iron Man movie or anything like that, but they do a respectable job with the material they have. So those are my thoughts on Wolverine. Next movie I'm going to see, probably Elysium on Sunday. So we'll see how that turns out. Till then, see you guys later.